What is up, Mastermind Motivation Nation? Welcome to another Mastermind Live on a Friday. It's myself today with my good friend Ryan Van Poodor. And how are you, Ryan?
I am doing awesome. How are you doing, Bo?
I'm good. Today, what we're here to talk about is as we're building each single week, we want to keep impressing upon you certain principles that we find important. So today's topic, what we're going to be talking about is the topic of influence and what influences us. And I think we're going to take this a bit more personal today. So rather than just throwing examples of what other people have done, we're going to bring this straight back home and we're going to show you what has influenced us and why we do what we do. So we'll just kick it off. Like, what's one decision that you made, Ryan, that led to you waking up and going, you know what? I need to help the world. I need to change it somehow for the good. And what made you kind of make that your mission in life?
Well, that's an awesome question. And if I were to answer it honestly, it's a combination of two things. I know you said one, but it's a combination of two things that happened at the same time that really made me decide to go out and do what we're doing together today. Those two things. First of all, I've been teaching drums for 20 years now, okay? And whenever I've taught drums, I've always subliminally added my personal development beliefs into my teaching, okay? It's like, especially with young kids, I'd sit there and I'd say, hey, you know what? Don't say it's hard. It's not hard. If we do it this way, you're going to see how easy it is. And then they see these things. I teach these valuable lessons as I went. There was this one drum student that I had. His name is Ash. And he's an incredible drummer. And I started teaching him in his late teens. And same thing, kept on giving him these little gold nuggets as I was teaching him drums about life and how he can succeed and the little steps and things he needs to apply to his life in order to get there. Next thing you know, after teaching him for 4 or 5 years, he's doing exactly what I'm doing. He's touring the world. He has endorsements, interviews, the whole bit. And it was just such an eye-opener to see one of my drum students go out and do exactly what I'm doing. That was the goal. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. He achieved it. He applied everything. He did all the hard work. But to see that come out really inspired me. Okay, so I see one of my drum students accomplish that. Around the exact same time when he started taking off and doing his career, I read a life-changing book that I've talked about several times. It's by an author, Mike Dooley, and the name of the book was Manifesting Change, okay? There's another book which I actually gifted to Bo called Infinite Possibilities by Mike Dooley, but Manifesting Change was the one I was reading at the time that really made me think I need to go out and help people. I've already achieved that with one of my drum students, and now I want to achieve it on a much grander scale. After reading that book and everything that he talked about, I was just absolutely blown away. I was like, I do that. I've done this. How can I apply this on a grander scale? And those two things coming together around the same time, I guess that's a universe at play. You know, it really inspired and influenced me to do what I'm doing today with Bo and Catherine with MasterMind Motivation Worldwide. Before I hand it over to Bo, I forgot about this. It's Catherine's birthday, so happy birthday, Catherine, from MasterMind.
I didn't forget. I was gonna do a big one at the end for it. You ruined the surprise.
Well, you know what? Bo's still gonna give another big one at the end. We didn't talk about that, Bo. But Bo, I'm really curious to hear, what made that decision for you.
Well, hi, Lily. Lily has just joined the chat. Well, Lily's a very good friend of Ryan's. But decision-wise, so this is interesting because it's the decision that leads you to embrace your influence. And for me, growing up, I was your average kid. Now, average in the sense that I was average, but my surroundings were exceptional. I grew up around some of the most successful people on the planet, literally the top of rock stardom. And so that was my life. As a result, as I cruised through life, I was about 13, 14. I didn't have much going for me. I was an average C student, didn't have interest in anything. And my father he's been big into self-development for years and always preaching and always telling me, you know what, whatever you want, you can do in this life. And I was like, yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, I get it. Just leave me to play my Xbox, please. That was me. So what then changed was one day the postman came the mailman, and he brought a box. And in that box, he had a very special Tony Robbins course that he was going to do. And my dad was away. And like any kid, when they get a box, see, my initial is the same as my dad. So it said Mr. Hawkins. I was like, sweet, I'm going to open it. I opened it up, and it was Personal Power 2, the CD course, back in the day when it was CDs. So what I then did was I listened to Personal Power, and I did it like a maniac. He suggested 30 days. I was like, I'm going to listen to it all the time. That changed what I do and how my life unfolded. Then I realized if I can have an impact on myself just by picking up a box and opening it, surely the rest of the world. And as I started to look around the rest of the world, my 14, 15-year-old self started seeing a lot of people were blinded into what they believed was convention, and they believed what they heard about themselves. And unfortunately, that was, you got to get your 9 to 5, you got to get married, you got to have kids, and that's it. You're going to retire when you're 60, heart attack 65, and you're done. So it was about 14, 15. The decision for me to change the world came from just opening that Personal Power Tony Robbins course. And still today, when I hear the music from the intro and I hear Tony Robbins say, live with passion, it just ignites something within me. It's kind of my anchor. But that moves on then to what the next question would be. And that's a decision, but what influence, be it circumstance, a person, had the biggest impact on your life and why? And Ryan, I need to throw that to you because I'd love to hear what the influence was for you.
Again, this is another combination answer. Just because
Ryan, you've gone sideways.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, that's really weird. You know what? Let's do this.
Oh, there he is. He's back. Sorry, I just had to interrupt you.
So, again, what this is more of a combination answer. Yeah, my phone was doing some funky stuff, guys. I got a brand new iPhone X, and long story short, some personal setup time is what I need with this. So, anyways, moving on. It's a combination for me. It's my parents. End of story. When I was growing up, very much like what you were saying with your father, Bo, my parents were a massive influence on me. They were always telling my brother and I, be careful what you think, be careful what you say, because that will end up being the world around you. And all these things, just like I did with my drum student, my parents did with me while I was growing up. And they were always telling us, anything is possible. You guys can achieve what you want out of your life. You just got to believe it. And you got to work hard. You can't quit. You got to persevere. All the things that Bo and I talk about, yes, that's what my parents brought me up around consistently, every day, every week, every month, every year. To the point where when I found my purpose in life, which was to become a musician and tour the world and do everything that I've accomplished with music, I had no doubt in my mind that I would do it. And they were there every step of the way to this very day. My parents still back absolutely everything that I do in my life. And they have by far been the biggest influence on my life, hands down. And I'm very grateful that they brought me up the way they did. But I'm interested to hear what your biggest influence was, Bo.
Well, for me, I've had many, but if I was to pick the biggest moment of circumstance or whatever you want to call it that changed the game for me, it was when I'd been consuming content for years and applying it. And then when I was 23, I read Joseph Campbell's Journey of a Hero and saw how these heroes, this is similar to the Star Wars story, how you start where you are, you have a purpose, you start going up, then you literally fall beyond anything you've ever done into hell. And then you become like the rebirth, the Phoenix. And for me, I was 23 and overnight, I lost my entire life. I became homeless. I didn't have anything. I had the world against me. I didn't know what to do. And that was the moment that I realized, okay, I've gone from one step, because it was just days before that I decided I wanted to be great. I wanted to make an impact on this world, and I was going to do it. So the universe went, okay, let's get off that cliff, pulled me off. And then the next thing you know, I've lost everything. I don't have a home. I've got zero in the bank. I've got people running away from me. I don't know what's going on. And from then I realized all I was armed with was the knowledge that I learned in the past 10 years before that. And the kind of the truth of the mission came through me going, I can't just give up now and become like, just live in the slums. No, I need to get myself out of this, because that is the journey of a hero. And so the influence was my circumstance. And then I got to road test every single thing that worked, what didn't work. And that's one of the great things about what Ryan and I are doing now, because we've actually lived through it. We're not just people who read books and then go, oh, we're going to regurgitate content. Because I can assure you, you may have had shit times, and I've been to the edge and I've crawled out of fucking hell and I've gotten back. And I never, ever want anyone to go through that. And that is a kind of a personal thing for me, to impart my knowledge with Ryan, with techniques, with tools, with mindset, to help people just never go there, because it's only a choice to go there and we don't need to. So that was it overnight. It was a circumstance that basically said, okay, well, you've got path A or path B. But then as you start getting into this this field, you start realizing, wow, I am preaching, not as in a kind of religious way, but you're trying to make an impact. And all of a sudden you start having influence over people, not in a manipulative way. And something that I think the big question is, okay, so I'm starting to influence people. How do you apply your influence to your life and put that into your practice? And so, Ryan, like, what would be your application of the influences of your life?
Well, you know what? I'm going to use one word, first of all, to start this. And that one word is cautiously. I'm very cautious with how I apply influences. The bottom line, I'm going to leave you with this quote, which is extremely important, guys. It's one of my favorite quotes, definitely in my top 5. And it's by Judy Garland. It's be a first-rate version of yourself, not a second-rate version of someone else. End of story. That is just a beautiful quote. Okay, so what I mean by approaching it cautiously, I want to use an analogy for this, okay? Let's take music, for example. In the 80s, what do we have? We have Motley Crue, we had Ozzy Osbourne, you know, Poison, all these glam hair metal bands, okay? And metal was doing good, and then, you know, pop music was doing great. Yeah, Michael Jackson, all that. Then something massive happened in the 90s that changed everything. What was it? The introduction of grunge music, okay? So you look at that. Soundgarden, massive band, incredible band, and they just took off when the 90s came around. And you know what? They sounded nothing like the 80s. They did something completely new and unique. Not only that, they were heavily influenced by a band like Black Sabbath. Do they sound exactly like Black Sabbath? No, they don't sound anything like Black Sabbath, but they had tinges of it, okay? They came in and they applied their influences their own way, their own unique way. They became original. They changed the music scene of the world. Grunge music was huge in the 90s. And you got bands like Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, you know, all these bands were coming out, Smashing Pumpkins. You know, all this Seattle scene bands were making a difference, but they did something new. They did something different. And I think that's, you know, how you got to look at your influences. You got to be very cautious. You got to use your influences, but how you apply them, be very cautious with how you do it. And I think the analogy of the Seattle scene was a great example of that. It was a whole new music scene that had never been done before, still applied from their influences, but something unique and new. And, you know, I don't want to go on too much more about this because we have an exercise later on that's very similar to what I was just talking about. But, you know, that's a great example of it. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Bo.
No, I couldn't agree more, because if you're trying to emulate the people around you, you're always going to be playing second fiddle. You're going to be a second-rate version of yourself, as you said. And you're always going to be behind the curve. And it's the combination of taking what you love and amalgamating it into being who you are, and then just being yourself, being the best version of yourself. For me, like, my application of my influences, it's daily through practice. And those influences could be through what I'm reading, through what I'm listening to, who I'm interacting with. And it's never a static thing. It's very fluid and it's always changing. And as soon as there's that great thing, as soon as you think you know something, you don't know it. And that's something that I've really learned, that I'm not afraid to move with the tide, move with the current, and just see where it takes me. So my application, especially in this field of kind of inspiration and motivation, you got to be kind of liquid and understand that, wow, there's so much more, because there's 6 billion people in the world and everyone's got an opinion. And because we're all blessed to be here, I think we've all got a valid opinion. And one thing that I think people of this kind of career take for advantage of is they go out and they don't realize the impact they have on people. And at the moment, it's really sad to say, but the president of the United States is a disgrace, and he doesn't realize the impact that he's having on people just by his words. So you really got to be careful that who you're influencing. So we're under no illusions. Myself and Ryan have a lot of influence, and we're doing it, and the influence is growing. Ryan, how would you take what you have when you know it's influencing someone, and what would be the best way to help them? Because they're literally all ears to you. So you're the influence all of a sudden. It's no longer the Seattle grunge scene. They look up and go, Ryan Van Poederoy, holy crap. And I see the messages every day. So for you, what's the best way to help those people?
Okay, that's a great question, guys. And I'm going to kick this off with drum lessons. Okay, this is how I'm going to use that example. When I tour with the Devin Townsend Project, we tour all over the world, and I do something to help give back to the fans, and I teach drum lessons one-on-one with the fans who come out to our shows. Now, when I teach these drum lessons, the first thing that I look for in a person is they're like, oh, wow, you're so awesome. I want to learn this and blah, 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 blah. I look for who they are and their strengths. Okay, I want to play to these people's strengths. I understand that they want to, you know, learn stuff that I do, and how do you do this drum fill? I want to do this, or I want to do a cover your song. But I'm more interested about them, okay, and what they can do and how we can build on that. So an example is lots of people, when they get a tour lesson with me, they're like, I want to learn the song Grace. And Grace is a bit of a complicated tune. It's a double bass pattern that can be difficult for specific drummers out there. And I'll break it down. I'll say, okay, here's the rudiments. What I'm playing with my feet is based off triplets, quadruplets, 16th notes, and triplet 16ths. I will show them all those different things. I'll show them those patterns. I won't show them necessarily the pattern of the song, but I will show them how I came up with that pattern in the song. I will pay attention to what they do best. And as soon as I find out, okay, they're best at doing triplets, I start a new beat. I'll go, let's build your own beat. Let's build your own Grace beat. And we'll start building all those things. And we'll use all the same rudiments and everything. But after 10, 15 minutes of doing it, next thing you know, they have their own version of their own beat that sounds nothing like Grace that they came up with on their very own. Okay? And that's how I try to, you know, apply my influence on these people, is to show them that, yes, I have these things. You know, like Neil Peart's one of my favorite drummers. Gavin Harrison, I love his playing. And yeah, you can hear things come out, but I always play to my strengths. So if I'm going to influence someone and teach someone, I'm going to play to their strengths. And I'm going to show them that they're unique, they're original, and they're their own person. And that's who they need to be. So that's what I try with music, and that's especially what I try. Never mind try, screw that. That's what I do, okay? And that's what I do with my motivational speaking here as well. With personal development, we're all unique, guys. We have a gift, all of us. We just got to play to our strengths and use it to the best of our knowledge and to the best that we can. And that's how I try to influence people, whether it's music or personal development. But Bo, I know you have a great answer, so I want to hear it.
Well, for me, there's a few factors, but listening. As soon as you start becoming a person of influence, taking the time to interact with people and actually listen to them truly, not just entertain them, but to listen. And also, don't be sycophantic to their needs. If you can see it, don't just say everything's going to be okay. Because being a person of influence with power, I always find that you get the best results when you cut the crap and you just go to it in a loving way. You know, I'm not just going to tear someone down just because I can. However, if I can see negative patterns of thought happening, I need to interrupt that, insert the new pattern, and allow them to realize their own success and their own greatness. But for me, it is that listening and getting to the core of it, because at the end of it, there's only a few things that we want in this life, and it's either we want to be more successful around us, and even if you break that down, it's just because we want to be noticed and loved. And if we can get to those core needs with people, I think we could all take that. So whoever is in your life, if you've got kids, if you've got best friends, if you've got lovers, I think a really important thing to do is just start listening to them, but truly listen, rather than just entertaining the fact that you're hearing words come into one ear and out the other. So that's what I apply. And I've started doing it more and more with people commenting, especially on my other pages and whatnot, just saying, look, it's all great that you're saying X, Y, and Z, but I think it's time that you realize this is the factor. So that's how I would use my influence. I don't use it because I'm trying to gain stature. I genuinely want people to succeed. It's a great feeling. I get more, it's that whole analogy, like if someone gives me something, I get more pleasure of making sure everyone's in the party's got something to have. So it's like what drew me to Ryan. Ryan's got a very similar outlook, that it's let's take care of everyone, but at the same time we grow ourselves. But I know that our time is really running, and we could talk about this for ages. But just summing up there, what we spoke about was really simply that we identified the decision in our lives that caused the great influence around us, and that influence led to our mission in life. Now, your mission might be different. I know mine is to get out and help 6 billion people, but yours might be you want to be a better husband, wife, you want to get your kid to college, you want to be the CEO of your company, you want to start a company, whatever it is, that is what you have to start identifying. And the clearer you get, the easier it becomes every decision. So like every single week, Ryan and I collaborate, and we get our 100% responsibility idea. So this idea, this exercise for this week, I'm going to let Ryan carry this one, because it's a fantastic exercise to start giving you more power and more dominance in your life to start going where you want to go. So Ryan, what's this week's 100% responsibility exercise?
Okay, this is coming to applying your influences, plain and simple. How can we do this? I already hinted on it, but get out a pen and paper as you're watching this, okay? Or write it down on your phone, whatever, your computer. Write 3. Just take 3 for now. I'm going to do 3 for you. 3 of your influences. Write them down. The next thing that I want you to do beside those influences is write down an attribute that you really love about them, okay? And then your goal is, how can you apply that to make yourself unique? I'm going to give you some examples, okay? So this exercise is clear to you guys. Neil Peart from Rush, my first massive influence, okay? The thing that I loved about Neil and his drumming were his drum fills. I just found them so unique. So I can break down his drum fills into rudiments, just like I did for my drum students. And the next thing is the goal. What is the goal? How can I apply that influence where I do not sound like my influence, but I can apply it to my drumming so it makes my drumming unique and original? And then I work on it and I apply that. Another example, influences don't have to be people of stature, guys. You know, it can be anyone in your life. For example, my parents were a massive influence. Another big influence on my life is my wife, Angela, okay? She's a beach body coach, and she's really into fitness, and we're both into that, okay? But I see her workout videos. It's an attribute I love about her. Every day she's posting out these kick-ass workout videos, and she's like just kicking ass. It's awesome. She's in great shape, and she's inspiring and motivating people, which is the key thing that I love. And it inspires me. It influences me. So I look at that, I'm like, okay, what could I do with my motivational speaking, personal development that could help, you know, move my career along, but do something similar to what Ange was doing? Well, I do my live feeds, RVP Health, Body and Mind. This live feed you're watching now with Bo, you know, this is something that both Bo and I feel strongly about, but it's an influence for me to get out there because of my wife. Okay. And it made me think differently. It makes you think outside the box. So I started doing live feeds with MMW. I started doing live feeds, RVP Health, Body and Mind, and it's helping people. So it's a way of making an influence work for me in a different way. Now, you know, there's all these different examples you can use, guys. But another big one for me was Mike Dooley and his books. Okay, they were a massive influence for me. So I look at Mike Dooley's book, Manifesting Change and all that. It really blew me away. It got me to where I am. What's one thing that Mike does that blows me away as well is he does notes from the universe. Bo, you also get those too, right?
Every day.
Yeah, they're incredible. So Bo said something very key there. He gets them every day. Mike does these notes from the universe Monday through Friday. Takes Saturday, Sundays off. Really inspirational stuff, and it gets sent out to motivate people. Well, I looked at that and I thought it was awesome. That's an attribute that I loved about Mike Dooley. So what did I do? I came up with the 4 5s. And the 4 5s, yes, that's my goal setting exercise, but it's also my blog that I do once a week on every Friday. And the reason it's called the 4 5s, because I do it 4 times in a month. And there's 5 topics that I talk about to inspire and motivate people around the world. And it's been incredible. It's worked really well. And these are just a few examples, guys, of how I can take my influences, the things that I love about them, and apply it to my life and make it unique and original in my own way. Try that exercise. It works 100%. I know Bo and I practice it every single day. It's an amazing exercise to do, guys. But that's it. So, Bo, back to you, man. Let's wrap this up.
So there you go, guys. Like all these videos on YouTube, we advise that you do take a pen and paper, open a laptop, another window, notes, Word, whatever, and just go through it again and just write down what inspires you, because it could be something that could change your life. Like, you're just one decision away from where you want to be. So go through this again. The exercises are there. As you can see, we're starting to connect more about, so you can understand who we are as people, because we want the maximum influence. So we're not alienating you. We have gone through struggles ourselves. We have hit those walls. However, we know we've overcome them, and we want to help everyone get over their own single walls. So guys, that's it for Mastermind Motivation this week. Again, what I was going to do was a huge happy birthday to Kat. Kat's one of the 3 musketeers with us. So Kat, happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful 21st birthday. But we're really excited to have Kat part of this team that we're doing. But like every single week, guys, please subscribe to this channel. If you're just watching this passively, it takes less than a second. As I say, use the 5-second rule, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hit the subscribe button. That's simple. Like the video, share it around, because the more influence that we can get out there, the more we can help you and people that you know. You don't know, we could help someone who will have an influence on you down the line. So like this channel, subscribe to the videos, and we're gonna see you next Friday for a really exciting Mastermind Motivation Worldwide. See you then, guys.
Take care, guys.